And welcome to week 10. And as you can see on the screen, this week we're going to cover job analysis and work design interventions. Now, this group of interventions mainly focuses on the worker and also how the organization can develop some type of framework for the employees to optimize performance. And that's what we're all about, is optimizing performance. Okay, here we are back again with the HPT model. As you can see, we're in the intervention selection, design and development section. Last week, we did learning and performance support. As you can see now, this week, we're doing job analysis and work design. Next week, we have a lot to cover under personal development and human resources development. It's going to be a much longer lesson than the previous ones because there's a lot of great stuff to cover. So, excuse me, that's where we're at. So what are we going to do today? We're going to be looking at three different areas. First, job analysis, where we're going to first understand what job analysis is, but we're also going to look at job descriptions and job specifications, which are outputs of the job analysis. Next, we're going to look at work design, and we're going to discuss job design and enlargement and job rotation and enrichment, and that's to help employees grow, perform a little bit better in their job. And finally, we're going to look at the human factors. We'll look at things such as ergonomics, safety engineering, and preventive maintenance, and that'll all be covered under that section. But before we go further, I found a really good YouTube video on job analysis and job design, which really describes in detail. So I think it's going to give us a good foundation as we discuss it in more detail. So let me go ahead and get this started.
Hello and welcome to another Cat Indian channel feature. This video is a part of MBA 101 SHRM segment. In this video, we're going to be looking at a very important aspect of strategic human resource management, that is, the job analysis and design. For the research that I conducted to make this video, I read countless articles, watched countless YouTube videos, but somehow I still couldn't gauge the concepts about job analysis and design. I then made notes and compared them against each other. That is when I clearly understood the concepts. I'm sure after watching this video, you'll have a better understanding as well. Diving straight into the topic, job analysis is a process of studying and collecting information relating to the operations and responsibilities of a specific job. Job design involves systematic attempt to organize tasks, duties, and responsibilities into a unit of work to achieve certain objectives. During a job application, the information about ownership and responsibilities is compiled by the human resource manager after consulting with the various department that the job pertains to. For example, if you remember my video for Fiedler's contingency theory, where I state that I used to work as a manager at a pizza store during my university days. If I needed to hire a cook, the HR manager would conduct a job analysis. The job analysis for the pizza store would look something like this: work long hours, ability to stand for a long period of time, good in interfacing with the customer, neat and clean in appearance, able to work weekend shifts. Now for the job design, the manager would look at ergonomics, such as rubber mats, as the cooks have to stand for a long period of time. The store is well lit, which creates an ambience that increases positivity during the busy times. Clean uniform with lots of aprons at disposal. Hand wash stations near the cash register when the cook handles customers. Make sense? Now let's look at details of job analysis. Job analysis can be broken down into job description and job specifications. Let's roll back to the pizza store example again. The job description can be prepared by conducting job identification, job summary, job duties and responsibilities, work conditions, machine tools and equipments, social environments, supervision related to the other jobs. The job specification can be prepared by conducting or compiling information about qualifications, experience, physical characteristics, social characteristics. Now let's look at the method of collecting data for job analysis. Number 1, individual method. For the pizza store example, the HR would have one-on-one discussion with me as a store manager, then the delivery drivers, and then the front staff to find out what sort of responsibility to list for cooks. Number 2, group interview method. Again, the HR manager can set up a meeting timing and then meet us in a group setting to provide the required information. Number 3, questionnaire method, where the HR manager will provide us questionnaire to list the items we seek in our prospective cook. Number 4, technical conference method. This is when the HR manager would reach out to the franchise owners if they seek any information or responsibility of the cook. For example, believe it or not, there's a science behind cooking pizza on a stone oven. Although pizza making might seem straightforward, there's a plethora of things that differentiate between a kick-ass pizza to a usual pizza. Number 5, videos or physical observation. The HR manager could spend time at the store and learn about responsibilities of a cook or watch videos to list the skills required. I used to work for a company as a quality consultant. The company had a huge operation providing salads, vegetables to corporations such as Wegmans, McDonald's, and Domino's. The recently hired CEO was a MIT engineer and had preference for engineers as well. This company did not do a good analysis and hired engineers as production supervisors. Not that they didn't do a good job, but they would get hired and they would quit because they did not like the job. The job had a huge turnover rate due to this reason. Referring to this example, here's the importance of job analysis. Number 1, facilitates proper publicity of the job. Number 2, selection of applicable psychological tests. Number 3, facilitates purposeful interviews. Number 4, facilitates scientific selection, placement, and orientation. Here's where job design comes in handy. If the position requires technical competency, using job design, a training can be set up for a new employee and their competency can be assessed prior to starting the job. Number 5, facilitates scientific promotions and transfer. Now let's revisit job design. The factors that affect job designs are organization factors, environmental factors, and behavioral factors. The primary objective of the organization is Number 1, to increase profitability. Number 2, reduce absenteeism and turnover. Remember, there's a direct correlation to profitability and turnover. We will look at this in another video. Number 3, increase performance. The better the employee performance, the more profitable the company. And lastly, greater job satisfaction. The employees will perform well if they're satisfied with the job. Now let's see how you can tie these into job design to ensure companies increase profitability. You can do this in 2 types, individual design and group design. The work can be simplified by incorporating job rotation. This is to reduce boredom. I encourage you to watch videos on automotive production line where the jobs are repetitive. To combat boredom, the employees rotate jobs every 2 hours. Job enlargement. As you get more competent in your job, additional jobs should be added. Job enrichment. This works on the example about the food company hiring engineers for production supervisory position. They just didn't feel the job was challenging enough. For the group design, create work teams. As Steve Jobs' fan, I urge you to watch his video about setting up teams for Next, where he creates high-performance work teams. Lastly, autonomous work groups. I'm fascinated by a company called 3M. They give projects to a group where you can work on your own time. Remember the Post-it invention? This was a result of autonomous work group. I really hope you enjoyed this video and I was able to explain the 2 concepts clearly. As always, please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Please check out other sections of this channel. I also look forward to seeing you on another video. This is Can Indian Channel signing off. Peace.
Okay, I think he does a really excellent job of describing job analysis and job design, gives great examples. And that's really a lot of information in such a short period of time. So I really want that to serve as a basis for what we're going to be covering in the rest of this lesson. So just kind of give you kind of a preview of what we're going to be covering. So when using job analysis to improve performance, it's really important to understand the type of work that's performed in an organization. First off, there's three different types. First is the direct work. This is work that directly supports and contributes to the organization mission and goals. So for instance, the gentleman used the pizza restaurant. I'm going to use the same example. In a restaurant, servers and cooks perform direct work because they support the mission of the restaurant in providing excellent food and service to the community. So that's direct work. The next one is, management work. Management is those people that administer or guide people, and they really basically include the managers and supervisors. So in our example, the restaurant manager would fall in this category because they're doing management type of work. And then finally, the third type of work is support work, and it provides services vital to the organization. So in our example, a dishwasher in a restaurant provides support work, and really very important position within the organization. They're not directly working with the customers, but they are providing a very vital service. And so just kind of give you an idea where I used to work. This was the organizational chart for the Inspector General, and the direct work was all done in all the different divisions, audit division, investigation, and so forth. Well, the management was the Inspector General, who was on top of the organizational chart. And then the department I worked in, the management and planning division, was the support work. And we were the ones that had the ITs, the budget, the training, human resources, and so forth. So we're not contributing directly to the direct work of the organization, but we're providing that backup and that support. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at job analysis. Yes.
I'm not entirely sure what the difference is between management work and support work based on the definitions that are here.
Okay.
It kind of sounds like management is in and of itself supporting direct work.
Yeah, to some degree it would be, but I see management work as setting the goals, setting the vision, the mission for the organization, setting up the strategic plans for the organization. So that's the type of work that they would do in the management work. And then the supervisors or managers under them would be responsible for implementing that. Now, the support workers would be responsible for their specific area. So like, for instance, in the organization I work for, as the example, we had a whole division that did nothing but support work. Even though there was managers and supervisors within it, you have to look at the entire organization as a whole. So we supported the entire organization as a whole with, financial, budget, contracting, those kind of things. So does that help?
So would it be fair to say, or fair to summarize this as management sets the strategy, direct work implements the strategy, support supplements direct works?
Yeah, actually, that's very good. Yeah, very good. I wish I would have used that. That's a lot easier. Yeah, very good. Very good. Thanks, Joey. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on. So, as we're saying, we're just starting to talk about job analysis. and it is a formal process to evaluate job requirements. So when you're conducting a job analysis, there are really two factors to review, and actually there's probably more, but we're just going to be covering these two. First, the entire job and all aspects of the job, and there's a lot of different aspects in an individual's job, and we'll cover some of that. This ensures when you're looking at all aspects of the job that the review is very comprehensive and that nothing is left out of the analysis. Second is the person needed to fill the job. Now, this doesn't mean a specific person by name in the organization. It's what type of employee, what their qualifications or skills are needed, and so forth. And job analysis is very systematic, and actually we're going to look at a performance support tool a little bit later to help guide you through if you ever have to do one. And it's very systematic, and during this process, the specific job skills, the duties, the knowledge, who they're accountable to, who's accountable to them. So as you can see in the job analysis, all aspects of the job need to be reviewed. So once you review under the job analysis the very aspects of the job, for instance, the organizational environment, the work environment, the worker, and so forth, you're going to determine the standards for that position. So once you're done with this job analysis, the result is basically two documents, the first being a job description. And a job description typically includes the person's main responsibilities, their duties, their working conditions. It also includes the job title and who the person reports to. Now, all of you in your current job should technically have some type of job description, and hopefully that is in writing and it's formal. I mean, every job that I've had, I was given that job description actually once I got hired and before I actually got there, so that I knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing. Now, the second outcome of the job analysis is a job specification, okay, where the job description is concerned with the actual work. The job specification is based on the worker. And so the job specification defines the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that are required to perform a job in an organization. The job specification covers aspects like education, work experience, managerial experience, and this all can help accomplish the goals related to the job. Now, the job specifications help in the recruitment and the selection process. So that's what when you see a job advertised, that's really basically what you're seeing is the job specification, because it helps the recruitment selection process. And it also helps evaluate the performance employees and their appraisal and promotions and so forth. So let's take a look at some examples of both the job description and job specification. So here's on the table that you can see here, 3.4. There are 7 possible areas that can be reviewed during the job analysis completed for a specific job. Now, we're just going to look at a few in detail because it would actually take too long, and you can all see that. The first we're going to look at is the skills, in which is the expertise needed to carry out and apply some type of task or applied task. Okay? There's a lot of different factors, what judgment they use to exercise, if they need manual dexterity, length of training, and so forth. So if you're analyzing, say, for instance, a human resources staffing position, typically these positions are ones which are responsible for the recruitment process. So you need to identify that the position has the skills in developing job announcements, since that's really a vital part of the recruitment process. So the next specification we'll look at is the experience line. So in this job specification, how much experience does the person need? Okay? Is this an entry level or a mid-level or is it a senior level position? Now, based on the level of position dictates how much experience the person who fills the job. is how much they're going to need. For instance, in my last job before I retired, they said the position required at least 10 years experience in federal government employee development, along with a degree in adult education or something equivalent. So they need to have that information, that experience level, and that was all put into the job announcement. So is there any questions on that? All right, let's move on to the next slide. And I've included an example here of a job description and specifications for a psychometrician, I can't even say that word, position. So what you can see is it contains the job title, the job level, along with a summary of the job description. Now, one very important part of the description is the job specifications, which are the duties and responsibilities, and you can see the list there. Now, as I looked at this, they listed the job description and specifications, and I wasn't really sure why they did that. To me, it kind of looks like they could just stay under the job specifications, so I'm a little confused about that. But I think you can see that this job has a lot of different responsibilities and duties, and they're listed in both of those blocks. Then finally, there's a list of qualifications for the position, which includes some type of educational requirements. They've got to have, a master's, preferably a doctoral degree. They've got to have a background in educational evaluation and measurement. So I think the last two slides are really good examples of what the output comes from a job analysis. If individuals writing these are going to have to analyze that entire job to be able to come up with all of this information. So, all right, and if there's any questions on that? Okay, in your course materials in Blackboard, you're going to find this job analysis survey. And what I'd like to do is pull it up and kind of go over it very quickly. Get my, there you go, my mouse to work. And let me go ahead and pull. Okay. So here's the performance support tool, the job analysis survey. You can see there's some just demographic information at the top. Then you're going to start looking very holistically at every part of the job. You're going to first describe the job and the work processes and work activities and work procedures and expectations, and especially the performer expectations. Also, the supervisor and the customer. What's all the expectations for the performer? What are they supposed to be doing? How about the supervisor? How about the customer? Another area you want to look at, what are the results of the job? What's the end result? Are they producing some type of product? Are they, customer service oriented? Are they conducting sales, okay, and so forth? So what's the final result of that job? We all have some type of outcome, okay? Describe the specific task attributes related to the job. What does the performer need to know to perform the job? What skills do they need to have? What abilities do they need? And what attitudes support successful completion of the jobs? And you're looking at the worker and the work itself. Then there are some non-human resources required for a job. What type of technology? Do you need to have some skills in Excel and Word and PowerPoint? Do you need to know how this person need to know how to operate certain equipment or tools and so forth, a cash register or something like that? Okay, that needs to be put in there as well. List any actions faced in the job that endanger health and safety. Hey, those of you that work in the food service industry, that could be very dangerous, working back in the back or something where it's hot. The floors get dirty and slippery and so forth, and that has to be put in there so that people understand that the position, if they are going to be, interviewing for it and getting a job, may, we need to be to remember to be safe in doing that job. And then list the direct report chain from the performer to the person holding the ultimate responsibility. What's the chain of command and so forth? And then list the people who report to the job performer. If this is an entry-level position, obviously it's not going to be, But there's some positions, like for instance, in my job, my final job, I had 2 employees that actually reported to me in specifically. So I hope you find that interesting. If you ever have to do something like that, you've got the tools right here. You don't have to even think about it. Just go down and answer all of these questions. And of course, it's going to take a lot of time. I've only ever done a couple of job analysis in my entire career. They're very rewarding to do that. And once you get it all completed and you have the job specifications, job descriptions, okay, then you know that that person that's going to be in that position is going to be fully understand what they have to do, and they're going to be able to figure out who is a good fit for that position. So, all right. If not, we're going to move, if there's no questions, we'll move on to the PowerPoint again. Okay, let me pull it up. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to do is, since we know a little bit more about job analysis, when, as a performance technologist, are you going to recommend job analysis? And the first situation is when a new organization is established. You know, obviously, if the new organization doesn't have any positions, you're going to have to determine the specific responsibilities for the employees and the skills needed for that responsibility. They also need to advertise for these positions, especially in a new organization. So, for example, you know, if a manufacturing plant is establishing a new research and development division, a job analysis needs to be done to determine the employees who will do the work in this new division. Okay. And the second reason you would create a job analysis or recommend a job analysis is when new jobs are created. It's like, so on our previous example, we've already established the research and development division, but they're growing and they need to hire 2 new employees to work in a specific area. You would then recommend a job analysis for these new positions. So again, you can hire the right people for the jobs. The third situation, which you would recommend, is when new technologies or system changes. Now, if the new technology or system drastically changes how the employee needs to perform the work, then the job analysis might need to be recommended. You might not have to do it on the entire job, but it all depends on the level of how those changes will affect that person's job. And finally, and probably the least likely when a job analysis would be recommended, is that when new policies or procedures are implemented. You know, if these policies and procedures are major and drastically change how employees perform their jobs, then, you know, some type of job analysis is probably needed. So, are there any questions on when you would recommend job analysis?
Yes. So for my project, I'm trying to I increase reservations in my store. My current recommendation is going to be to more or less crack down on one of the procedures that is already available to us. But it's not one that necessarily every employee has been trained to do. It's not one that would require particularly intensive training or anything, but it is a new procedure for some of them. Would that necessitate? It seems like a fairly small and innocuous thing to add to what they would be expected to do, but I don't know. Like, I don't know how minute it has to be or how grand it has to be to qualify.
Actually, that's very good, because we were going to talk about is it viable for your project? So you must have looked at the other side, but I think not. I probably wouldn't recommend it. The reason being, and I think you really kind of described it, it's so minute. It's an important part of the job, but it's not changing the entire job so drastically where you'd have to do the analysis. So I think in your case, probably not, as you described it. Does that help?
Yes, sir. That's very helpful. helpful.
Okay. How about anybody else? And I'm glad Joey brought that up because I feel that as I look at some of your projects, this could be a viable intervention that you're going to recommend. Now, if you do recommend job analysis, I am not going to ask you to fill out that job analysis performance support goal, okay? When you look at making your recommendations for interventions, once you make them, I just want to know what your rationale is. Why did you recommend job analysis, or why did you recommend, training and development, or this or that? Okay, and how do you feel that it's going to improve the performance of that either position or the organization? So think about that in context. Think about, looking at your project, and would you feel that now that you know a little bit more about job analysis and why you would use it and when you would potentially recommend it, could this be, a viable intervention for your project? And I think in some of your cases, yes, it would be. Okay. Does anyone else want to ask a question or maybe have a little insight on what you think about job analysis in your project? Okay, I guess not. All righty. But I just want you to think about this, and I think this, again, is a very, very powerful intervention and very powerful to be able to improve performance in an organization. So if not, if you have any questions that what we covered, job analysis, okay? Because we're going to be moving on to work design right after this. No, I did not take that picture. I found that picture online. I just kind of thought it was interesting. So, but wish I would have. That'd been interesting. All right. Now that we've completed job analysis, we're going to move on into work design. Now, you may be wondering, what is the difference between job analysis and work design? I think what you're going to see in this next slide is going to clarify that. In this table, on the left-hand side, you're going to see three areas in which to compare the job analysis and work design: input, process, and output. So when we look at the difference between the two, let's first look at the input. The input for job analysis is data on the work, the worker, and work environment, and also the organization environment. But if you look at the work design, the input is the job descriptions and job specifications, which is really the output of the job analysis. So you can see how they kind of work together, even though they're different. So when we compare both in the process block, to conduct a job analysis, task, and job and task analysis performed, and also performance analysis. Now, under the work design, there are multiple processes that are used. There's the work design called enlargement, rotation, enrichment, which we're going to cover, human factors, ergonomics, safety engineer, we're going to cover that, and also quality improvement, which we are not going to cover in this course, but we are going to cover at least a couple of those. Okay. And finally, under the output, as we just said, we already talked about the output for job analysis, whereas the job description and specifications, where under the work design, you have the blueprint for job performance requirements and the blueprint for maximizing organizational efficiency and worker satisfaction. So one way that I differentiate between the job analysis and work design is that the job analysis focuses on the person in the job, and the work design is how that person performs the job. Okay, hopefully that make a little bit clear.
It also seems like the work design inherently comes after the job analysis. Is that fair to say?
Yes, because as you can see, the output from the job analysis is the description, specification, and then once you have that, you're going to start your work design process. So yeah, that's a good observation. Any other questions? Okay, now that we're going to take a closer look at work design, and the first process, if you remember that we just looked at that table, was job enlargement. And job enlargement is a job design technique where there is an increase in the number of tasks associated with a certain job. And the gentleman in the video actually covered this as well. In other words, it means increasing the scope of one's duties and responsibilities. The benefits of job enlargement include reduced monotony and increased work flexibility. Okay? And we're going to have, I believe, an example of this here a little bit later in another slide. The job rotation is the next area to look at, and an employee is allowed to rotate into another position other than their own within the organization. And this exposes the employees to another view of the organization. And I know the last organization I worked at, they would do this from time to time. If someone worked in the audit division, they may work in another division that does similar work, but a totally different type of auditing and so forth. So as job rotation, as you can see here, it exposes employees to another view of the organization. So some objectives of job rotation include, if you're doing the same routine job over and over again, this helps to reduce that job monotony. It also helps in succession planning as well, because now you have an individual that has a broader range of not only skills, but exposure to the organization. And so they may be a good person to be a candidate for moving up. And it also exposes the employees to all aspects of the organization and also develops a wider range of work experience. Okay? The last one we're going to discuss is job enrichment. Job enrichment is a kind of a motivational technique used to increase the employee satisfaction in the workplace by delegating additional responsibilities that would typically reserve for a higher level position, such as a manager or a supervisor. Okay, so you're really increasing, as you can see here, the job depth and making it more rewarding. Okay, and so the benefits of job enrichment for employees is to provide a motivation for advancement, allow some new skills to be acquired, provides a really good sense of accomplishment because they're working at maybe a little bit higher level than they are in their current job, and increases the chance of recognition. Of course, if they're doing a job that's a little bit, more responsibility and increased knowledge that they have now, and they do a great job of it, well, they might be recognized for that. Okay, so that's job enlargement, job rotation, and job enrichment. Are there any questions on any of those? And again, you might want to consider one of these as an intervention for your project as well. Again, all you have to do is explain. Yes.
Did you say an example of a job rotation?
A job rotation movement. Okay. Let's say, let me look at, trying to think of a good example, maybe like in a, okay. Well, let's think about in your organization, Joey. Do you have more than, do you have like a team leader position and a sales position and then a manager position? Do you have that in your organization?
So everyone within my store is in sales.
Okay.
There's no one who is specifically sales. Like we are all basically every job except for the manager who also manages and does more behind the scenes work as well.
Okay. Okay, so let's just suppose that your organization has 3 different levels. Okay, you have the salesperson, then you have a team leader that is responsible for a group of maybe 5 sales. They still do sales, but they're still responsible for leading and motivating and tracking those 5 sales employees. And then you have the store manager. A job rotation would be, hey, we've got a team leader, say, is going out for maternity leave, okay? And what they decide to do, instead of hiring a new team leader, we ask, is there any of you in sales that would like to rotate into that team leader job for a period of time, get some experience and expose you more to maybe a little bit of the leadership and a little higher level of information? So Does that help explain that?
So it would be like when my previous store leader was on sick leave, and then
Hmm.
the assistant store leader was the acting store leader for the time being.
Yeah, I would see that. Yeah, that's a job
Okay.
rotation. Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
it's
like
not so
it's a
much, it's more rotating a person into a different position, less finding something new about the position.
right, right. Yeah.
Okay, I misunderstood based on the description.
No. Yeah. No, that sounds it because I know in my last organization we did this from time to time, and it was almost exactly as you stated. An employee would move up into a leadership position because someone's on sick leave or whatever. So, and it really gave them a real good view of what it's like to be in those leadership positions. So, okay. Anyone else have a question? All right. So let's look at some examples of job enlargement and job redesign. So let me just move this. Excuse me, I moved one thing out I can't read. There it is. Okay. Now here's a scenario. Darlene, Joan, and Jim are employed at XYZ Friendly Incorporated. Their responsibilities are as follows. Darlene makes the product. Joan packages the product, and Jim distributes the product. All three workers are valued employees. However, their enthusiasm for their jobs is decreasing. So in an attempt to retain their interest, enthusiasm, and challenge their potential, their immediate supervisor to enlarge their jobs. Under the new arrangement, the following occurs. Darlene continues to make the product, but also takes over some of the packaging duties. Joan is still the lead packager, but she also now puts the finishing touches on the product prior to packaging. Tim is still responsible for distribution, but he takes over 2 packaging tasks from Joan and 4 warehousing tasks that were formerly assigned to another worker. Okay, so they're still doing their core responsibilities, but they've added responsibilities to enlarge what they're doing and so to keep them more motivated in their job as well. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Any questions on that? And here's an example of job redesign. In early 2000, a naturalization service spokesperson speaking on public radio reported that the service was having trouble recruiting and retaining employees in the San Diego area along a hotbed of illegal entry activity. The number of illegal entries had dropped significantly due to the addition of 70 miles of new fencing and the use of electronic surveillance devices. Patrolling the border had become a routine job with little or no action. One employee stated that most evenings he drove to work, signed in, drove 20 miles to his post, and sat in his car for the entire shift. The spokesman for the service stated that because the new system was working so well, that they had no intentions of changing or job redesign the tasks and the responsibility assigned to the job of the Border Patrol. However, they were encouraging employees to take short-term assignments in more active areas, a job rotation, or to perform community service such as volunteering to coach sports teams of a Mexican youth for local teen centers to enhance the image of the Border Patrol. And that's part of job enrichment. So what they're trying to do is, okay, we're not going to go ahead and change the core job. And just like under the job enlargement, how about taking on some additional responsibilities? And in this case, taking a short-term responsibility assignment somewhere else, or maybe help volunteering in some coaching sports and so forth. So those were a couple of examples of job enlargement. Okay, now let's look at another facet of job design, which is called ergonomics. Oops, okay, sorry there. Ergonomics is about designing for people. Ergonomics is really defined as a science of fitting a workplace to the user's needs. Ergonomics aims to increase efficiency and productivity and reduce discomfort. Now think about the angle of your computer monitor or the height of your desk. Think about whether your eyes are strained by the end of the day or if your wrists hurt from typing. Sound understanding of ergonomics can prevent most workplace injuries by adjusting the tools to the user, putting an emphasis on proper posture to reduce the impact of repetitive movements. In my last organization, when we moved into a new building, we all had desks in which we could move our entire desk up with our computer on it and stand if we needed to be more comfortable. We can move it to any different type of level. We can move, we had dual screens. So we really wanted to make sure that when we worked, we were as comfortable as possible, and we can adjust our desk and our computer screens so that we were very comfortable and that we had no limitations to work. Okay. I hope some of your organizations think about that when they're designing workplaces, and I know ours did to a large extent. So any questions on ergonomics? Again, Mike, yes.
It's not really a question, more a comment. Just recently at my workplace, they went through big renovation during the front, which kind of took some ideas of ergonomics into place. So previously, for whenever we had to take cash, whenever we did transactions, we had to stand and do all that. But then they changed it so that we can always be sitting down for our employees that can't really handle staying up for long periods of time. And
wow, good.
yeah, and everyone likes how the new place look, and no, it's a great idea. That's what they were mainly pushing. That they were trying to do it so that cashiers can sit down more of the time, so that those who can or those who can't stand up for too long can sit down. Because we do have elderly cashiers. We do have also have cashiers with bad knees and all. So it's very nice to know that our organization did take that into consideration.
Yeah, very, very good. I can relate to the old person and the bad knees. Okay. No, that's very interesting. No, in any part of the design process, did they come and ask you as employees if that would be, or is that something that maybe was already decided on? Did they ask?
It was really only what they decided on, because other aspects of the renovation, like other cashier, they didn't really tell us any other ideas, like where they would put things or how they're gonna put it. They just told us we have this idea so that but during the renovation they didn't really tell us like what's gonna be placed or how things gonna be placed. So some of our more experienced, more elderly cashiers were just confused as to what's gonna happen. Like, yeah, they can sit down, but then where can they put things? Like, they also like the length, the area of the thing, or like how tall they're gonna put things. Some other things like that were not really discussed with the actual cashiers using that.
Yeah. Well, it's good that the organization thought of that, and it sounds like it's pretty well received. It's going to take a little time to, everyone get used to it, but that's really great. Yeah, that's good. And I think more of that needs to be done. And I just think the study of ergonomics, the whole study is really interesting. I had some back issues with my chair, and I was uncomfortable during the day. And actually, the Department of Agriculture has a whole section of people that help individuals design their workstation or provide, different type of keyboards and chairs. I mean, I had a custom fitted chair so that I was more comfortable. It was great, and the organization paid for it. And so accommodated, me having back problems all the time. And of course, I was less productive because I was more worrying about my back and I was uncomfortable. So I think ergonomics is really a great, something I probably would have loved to delve into in my work day. So, but thank you very much for that example. I appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at the next area, and that is safety engineering. Safety engineering is an applied science strongly related to systems engineering. Safety engineering aims to ensure that a life-critical system behaves as needed, even when the pieces fail. So in the real world, the term safety engineering refers to any act of accident prevention by a person qualified in the field. Obviously, we want to make sure employees are safe and they have a safe and healthy work environment. So safety engineering is often reactionary to adverse events, such as incidents, as reflected in accident statistics. So failure to identify risks to safety and the according inability to address or control these results can result in massive costs, both human and economic. One time earlier in my work career, I worked at a coal research laboratory that used very toxic chemicals to determine the density of the coal. And so we had, before, when the building was designed, they had a safety engineer come in and design containers and that had positive flow, airflow to go through so that we would not inhale any of the really bad fumes coming off of these chemicals. And we have these big thick rubber gloves, and we have to wear all the safety equipment just so that there wouldn't be an incident. Unfortunately, I had a leak in one of my gloves and got a pretty bad chemical burn, but that was just, you learned after that to wear 2 pair of gloves. So the whole part of safety engineering really is to keep employees safe. So, so on this slide, you're going to see a table when you may need to select safety engineering. If you've got maybe a bunch of accidents that are happening, you can see on the right-hand side, you're going to maybe suggest some of these things. In diseases and so forth, then you're going to suggest the work environment, discussing work environment and so forth. And if you've got a problem with stress, okay, this might be potentially an area in some of your papers that you might recommend safety engineering, where employees are under stress, and you might have to establish some type of stress program to help individuals deal with the stress, also monitor their progress towards stress reduction and so forth. So this, potentially this last one, knowing your projects, I'm not sure, accidents or diseases are really causing any of your problems, but stress might in some of your instances. So this might be a viable intervention for you. All right, the next area, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, did someone have a question? No? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, the next area we're going to cover is preventive maintenance. Okay, preventive maintenance is a manufacturing-related process that focuses on the repair and adjustments of issues within a production system. So even on our cars, we do preventive maintenance. You go get an oil change. Even in my motorhome, as much as it costs me, I go once a year, and there is a list of things that the diesel mechanic looks at my engine and does an oil change, because in the whole case of preventive maintenance is reduced downtime. In my case, in my motorhome or my car, I don't want to break down along the road. Also, too, extends the equipment life and also prevent major equipment repairs. So I can really relate to preventive maintenance because I have this motorhome that, anytime I go for an oil change, it's $600. It's really expensive, but the cost of ruining an engine, a diesel engine like that, $600 is worth paying for that. So now there's 3 different approaches to preventive maintenance. As you can see on the left-hand side, preventive maintenance, and the timing is you're going to do the checks before a breakdown occurs. And some example is airlines, after every 1,000 hours, they take apart the jet engines and check everything to make sure everything is operating and put it back together. It's a big job, but obviously you know how important that is. Remedial maintenance, you complete overhaul, replacement, or equipment repair For instance, airline operations policy suggests laboratory or kitchen repair only after equipment breaks down. Okay, if something breaks down in the galley area, it's not going to hurt the airplane and come down out of the sky, but it really needs to be fixed once they get back down on the ground. And then conditional maintenance. The timing is overhaul, repair, in response to inspection. Airline tires are inspected every 24 hours and changed as needed. Obviously, you can understand how important those airline tires are on the plane when it lands. Okay. So, any questions on the safety engineering or ergonomics or preventive maintenance? All right, if not, we're almost there. We're going to go ahead and just cover our case study very quickly, trying to apply what we learned in this lesson. Let me get that pulled up. Okay, it says I'm sharing Word, but I can't see it. Give me just a second here. Okay, let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. Can you see the Word document?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Sometimes I get confused and I can't see it and it's there and all that good stuff. Okay, now what we're going to do is again look at the case study, just kind of an overview. We're supposed to hire 1,000 new employees plus the 2010 presidential memorandum on hiring reform, which means that we had to overhaul the recruitment process. They had to set an 80-day goal to complete the entire process and develop a data-driven system to improve the quality and speed of agency hiring. So now that you know a little bit more about job analysis and work design, in your estimation, would you recommend any of the following interventions to improve performance of this organization? Would you select job analysis, work design, ergonomics, safety engineering, or preventive maintenance? Is there any need for it all, any of those?
I know that we've done this once a week for the past 10 weeks. Could you give the briefest description of the problem one more time?
Sure. The problem is that we had to hire 1,000 new employees in a year, okay? And the human resources department really was not properly staffed to do that volume in such a short time. But one of the biggest things was that the presidential memorandum said that you had to overhaul their recruitment process, okay? And one of the things that was not happening was the 80-day end-to-end hiring. As you can see here, the current hiring process was 102 days versus 80 days. Also, another issue was that the HR supervisors were spending over 40 hours a week to manually tracking that. And then the hiring managers couldn't determine the status of the hiring action. So what the recommendations were is that a database, a program was developed to track all of the hiring actions. Not only did just the HR supervisors have access to it, but also all the HR staffing specialists and the hiring managers. Okay. So that was the intervention that was made, and of course, and then there was training on the system. But do you think, based on what the problem was, what the intervention was there any need for any of this job analysis, work design, anything like that?
I think it would be a work design, since one of the outputs for work design is a blueprint for maximum efficiency. And this whole thing seems to be a matter of getting the most efficient hiring methodology.
Sure.
I definitely can't see it being anything past work design, like ergonomics, safety, preventative. None of those seem related, so it would have to be either job analysis or work design. And between the two, work design seems to work better.
Yeah, I agree with you. And because remember how when we talked that if there's any major changes to their jobs, then you're going to want to do job analysis. But there really wasn't major changes. There was this new system that they used to track. So obviously they need to be trained on it. But then you really kind of had to look at it to ensure that the employees, the supervisor, and hiring managers were using it in their job in the most efficient way. So you're right, Joey. Yeah, it would be work design in this case. So very good. So unless someone thinks differently, I think you got that. Okay, and we're going to stop sharing that. We're almost here at the end. And we're just going to go over the lesson takeaways. Like, get to the right slide here. And all right, what I'd like to have you take away from this lesson is, there's we talked about 3 different types of work in organization work: direct management and support work. And we talked about giving examples of those in a couple of different organizations. Job analysis, we looked at, it's a formal way of evaluating job requirements and all aspects of the job and the type of person need to fill it. You're going to recommend it when there's a new organization or jobs or new technologies, systems, policies, or procedures. Work design now then takes the job descriptions, specifications that you completed in the job analysis phase, and then maximizes organizational efficiency and worker satisfaction. We talked about ergonomics, studying the design of workstations, practice, and workflow. And if there are employee accident, disease, or stretch, you may want to recommend safety engineering. So if there is no further questions, hope you have a nice week. And this is one last picture of the pool that's right outside the door here that I'm sitting at. So if no other questions, hope you have a great week. Take care.
Professor?
Yes.
Hey, I just wanted to, I was a little late coming into class. I don't know how that affects me in any way.
Oh, no. Let me just stop the recording.
Okay.
And,